Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your service and the FBI agents across the nation. Since 2019, the United States has experienced a steep rise in hate crimes. African Americans have been targeted in 48.5% of all hate crimes, while hate incidences targeting Latinx have risen 8.7%. Anti-Semitic hate incidents have risen by 14%, and anti-Asian hate incidents have risen by nearly 150%. Director Wray, my time is short. These questions should give just a brief response. Is the Bureau prioritizing its investigations into violent hate crimes?
Yes, very much so. And I could give you more information. It just depends on how much you would like here.
You'll have an opportunity. What percentage of domestic terrorism cases investigated by the FBI would you now say are motivated by white supremacist type ideology?
Well, I'm not sure that I could give you a percentage. Certainly on the domestic terrorism side, we have elevated, I did back in summer of 2019, racially motivated violent extremism to our very top threat priority band, consistent with ISIS. And the biggest chunk of that, by far and away, the vast majority of that, is racially motivated violent extremists advocating for the superior.
And you would say that's still today?
Yes.
Thank you. Now let's direct our attention to the beating of law enforcement in Washington on January 6th. On January 6th, the domestic terrorists who beat law enforcement officers and breached the citadel of democracy of the United States wore insignias of white supremacist groups, waved Confederate flags, hung a noose on the lawn, and they were shouting racial epithets. As indicated, NYPD sent a packet of raw intelligence concerning potential violence. Why did the FBI not issue a formal threat assessment with all of that information, including an assessment at headquarters?
Well, I don't know about a formal threat assessment. As I was mentioning in response to an earlier question, we did put out quite a number, I think a dozen or so, intelligence products specifically geared towards domestic violent extremism and election-related domestic violent extremism.
On that day? On January 6th?
Over the course of 20, leading up to and right on up to and including December, the month.
Can I get that in writing as to the details of how that progressed and whether there was a threat assessment on that day? I need to move on, and I thank you very much. You know that the Norfolk FBI office, as indicated, had an SIR report, Situational Information Report. These are the words: be ready to fight. Congress needs to hear glass breaking, doors being kicked in, and blood from their BLM, Black Lives Matter, and Antifa slave soldiers being spilled. Get violent. Stop calling this a march or a rally or a protest. Get ready for war. Would you agree that these words clearly could indicate racial bias and attempt to use race and racism as a potential motive for violence?
Well, I'm not sure I tracked all the words in the quote that you read, but certainly the Norfolk Situational Information Report, the information that was online was concerning enough that it was provided, as I said, within.
It had Black Lives Matter, slave soldiers. That has some racial overtone.
Absolutely, of course.
Let me, as you well know, you've just heard me recount the Norfolk, the NYPD. Was the FBI aware of any online threats to the Vice President, the Speaker of the House, and specific members of Congress connected with January 6th?
Well, I can't think of any sitting here right now. Certainly, we were aware of and discussed a lot of online chatter that was out there.
I'm going to move on. Thank you.
But I'm not aware of any.
On the day of, did headquarters contact the Vice President? Did they contact the Speaker of the House? And did they contact FBI, contact any member of Congress on the day of, January 6th?
Did any member of the FBI have any contact with any member
headquarters,
of
I'm going to speak of, your office.
Well, I know that there was interaction between.
I'm going to ask for that in writing as well. Maybe,
okay.
Yes, thank you. Let me go to the connection of race and the President of the United States, former President. On December 19th, the former President indicated big protests in D.C. on January 6th. There will be wild. 12:15 on January 6th, he said, "You'll never take back our country with weakness." At 1:10 p.m., President Trump said, "We fight like hell, and if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore." At 2:11, rioters breached police lines on the west side of the Capitol. Director Wray, these words do indicate that the former President, Donald Trump, helped motivate the domestic terrorist attack on January 6th. Have any of these words been reviewed to determine whether or not President Trump words and deeds should be referred to the Department of Justice as contributing to the violence of the insurrectionists on January 6th?
The gentlelady's time has expired. The witness may answer the question.
I'm not sure there's a whole lot I can add on that subject, but if there's something I can provide in follow-up, I'm happy to.
I asked if you referred these actions or deeds of the president, you're the investigatory agency, to the Department of Justice. Donald Trump's actions, words, deeds on that day.
I'm not aware of any investigation that specifically goes to that, but we have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of investigations related to January 6th involving lots and lots of different pieces of it, and I want to be careful not to speak with
Well, maybe I can get that back in writing. I thank you. Mr. Chairman, if I might just put on the record for a letter back, there are only 4.7% African Americans in the FBI. Much has come to my attention of the lack of promotion opportunities for leadership in the FBI, and the diversity office that you now have does not report directly to the FBI director. Would you please provide me in writing where we are with diversity in the FBI and as it relates to minorities and specifically African Americans?
Gentlelady.
I yield back. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Gentlelady yields back. Mr. Gohmert.
Thank you.